Ho 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 ho! Ladies, gentlemen, gamers, and fellow Zenless Zone Zero enjoyers! Welcome back to another ZZZ video. So today, I've been waiting a long time for this in two separate ways. Number one, even though my Cappy is blocking it, we are going to go over the Zenless Zone Zero version 1.1 Undercover R&B special program. I am very, very excited for this. I am very, very looking forward to this, and I've been waiting for this. And we're going to talk about why. But number two, doubly so, I was kind of planning to do this video at one point or another. I didn't really know when, I didn't know why. Well, I know why, but I didn't really know when or how. And I figured I might as well do it now. So I've been planning to make my opinions on Zenless Zone Zero. It's been a while since the game has been out. It's probably been almost nearly a month actually, because today's the 3rd, tomorrow's the 4th. And I literally just woke up, so excuse me if my voice is a little raspy, although some people might like that. Either way, it's been about a month, and I was planning to make my review of the game, my tentative review of the game, a little bit after it came out, with the thought that I was actually going to beat it. Now, similar to what happened with Honkai Star Rail when I played it on stream at Twitch TV/Tecnics channel, I am taking forever with this shit. But not because it's bad, not because I don't want to play it, mostly because I'm doing all the side quests and I want to take my time with it and really enjoy it. So we're taking our time with it. I'm decently far though. I'm up to the Zhu Yuan story, basically intermission of Chapter 2 leading to Chapter 3, which is the last thing in the game so far. Now, obviously, this 1.1 special program is probably going to show off some new story, but if I wasn't going to do it now, I felt like I was going to wait too long, and it's already pretty late anyway. Typically, I like to be quick on these turnaround things, but it's been a month, and it would be a lot longer if I was going to do it at the end of the story, maybe not even ever at that point. So I figured to just include it in here, hopefully really quickly, because so far from what I see, the special program is only 16 minutes, and hopefully we'll talk about that as well. But we're going to start the video with my opinions on Zenless thus far. Now, I'm pretty near the end already, so they'll be pretty close to what I think probably when I beat the game as well, at least tentatively, because again, this is a live service game. They always add more, but I think it'll be pretty accurate. So either way, what do I think about Zenless Zone Zero? Having been a gacha player for a while now, having played a whole myriad of games my whole life, and having seen the gaming industry kind of go down in certain aspects to the consumer as time has went on. The prices went up, they've given you less, it's been buggier on release, they decide to release unfinished games, that's more cash cow. Live service is great, you know, it makes a lot of things free, but live service also takes away some stuff that would have been considered just part of an actual game, but also would have costed us money. So even though things are free to play, things are a lot different now than they used to be when I was a little tight. But either way, I've played the other Hoyo games. I've played Impact Third, not that much though. I've played Genshin Impact a lot. I've played Honkai Star Rail a lot. How does Zenless compare? When I first heard about Zenless, I didn't really think anything of it. I'm gonna be honest. I saw it, I was like, okay, another gacha, another Hoyo gacha, whatever. I was at least somewhat interested in it because it had Hoyo on the name, because I do like Hoyo, despite what Genshin does. I do like Hoyo because Star Rail fucking saves the shit out of the series, right? Star Rail does almost everything perfectly. I am shocked by Star Rail. And it's you know, if you're a purveyor of the channel, you mainly know it's because Star Rail does things that are just amazing. Even though, sadly, it's a turn-based game. I don't like turn-based, but I like Star Rail. Star Rail's turn-based is good. Auto Battle is great. So Zenless comes out, it comes onto the scene, they start teasing it, and it's an urban fighter. And I say fighter loosely, it's obviously not a fighting game, although they take a lot of inspiration from that. They definitely do collabs with Street Fighter as well. Excuse me. But it is somewhat marketed as like a fighting inspired game. It's, I don't want to say it's a hack and slash, but it's definitely more combat oriented than most things. So when I heard that, I still wasn't interested in the game. I don't really like urban, and I don't really like fighting, but with the combat, I was like, okay, I kind of like that. I don't like fighting games, you know, classic fighting games, but I like the combat. I really like the combat in the Hoyo games, despite even Star Rails being turn-based. I was like, I typically enjoy it, and that seems to be one of the main focuses. So we'll time skip a little bit here, and Zenless finally comes out, and I'm getting hyped for it. I'll be honest. More and more, I'm really hoping the combat is something I'm gonna fall in love with. So July 4th comes out, our great Independence Day in America, and it's finally time to play Zenless, and I play it. Now, what did I think? At first, well, first and foremost, this game, there's some things visually I'll talk about that kind of upset me. Now, obviously, the whole thematic of urban, I'm not a great fan of. I don't hate it, but I'm not a lover of it. I'm not a purveyor of urban. Excuse me, and that's fine. And I'll be honest, the more I've played the game, the more I've enjoyed it. The game is nice. It feels a little gray and a little faded, and for all of my trailer reactions before it came out, I said the same thing. The game just looks non-vibrant, not like Star Rail. Star Rail to me is the apex of colors. Genshin is good too. Impact Third is basically Star Rail too, because they're both space. And I love those games. I love the colors. Not Impact Third. Star Rail specifically, I think is amazing. Zenless always felt faded with the colors, and I was like, ugh. The more I played the game, the more I didn't really notice it, or the more I didn't really care. I think the colors are fine. They definitely are more gray tone, but it wasn't as big as a deal as I thought it would be for me. Now, this being the modern day Hoyo game, it is the most recent Hoyo game, at least that I know of, and it definitely shows in a lot of things. Now, the one bad thing I will say is, and I think obviously this is the case for almost all of them, and not just Hoyo games, just anything in general. If it's on the phone, they can't take it that far. And what do I mean by that? Some of the models, if you look at their fingers, you definitely see it's a little blocky, it's a little low poly count, it's a little rough. Is that a big deal? No. Is it something that annoys me personally? Yes. They obviously have to keep it scaled down to a point where it could be on the phone, and that kind of takes away a little bit, especially in their fingies. But aside from that, everything else is basically the most modern we've seen it. And this is where online you'll see this with other people talking about Zenless too. Zenless's animations, especially in its animated cutscenes, they are absolutely amazing. I see people glazing it, and for right reason. The animations, the facial expressions, the amount of facial expressions they have, unlike any other Hoyo game in general that I've seen ever thus far. Like, holy god, the visuals, in terms of just the rigging, the characters, especially the faces, blows it out of the park extremely. When I went back to Genshin, right, because I have to do my dailies in there too, when I went back to Genshin, I almost vomited. And it's the same thing that happened when I played Wuthering and I went back to Genshin and I moved around. I almost vomited, because I was like, Genshin is so outdated, and Zenless is so modern. The facial animations are on a whole new level. I don't know what the fuck they're doing at the Zenless team, but they must be smoking crack for the animators. Like, holy Jesus Lord. It is insanity. It's really fucking good. Ironically enough, we have the Genshin music here too. But either way, aside from the animations, it feels really smooth. Again, it's a modern day Hoyo game. It feels smooth, it feels snappy, it feels good. Now, maybe that could just be because it's new, right? Because we're playing it. Eventually, we'll get used to it. Eventually, it'll become outdated. Hopefully not, though. But it feels good. Now, there's a lot of other things, but to kind of stick for the art style here, it's very, very stylized. I think this, and it's a weird thing too. Again, this is not a game for everyone, and that's kind of the thing that I've been noticing. Zenless, it's not going to be Genshin, I don't think, because Genshin is not only the exception, but it's broad. I think Zenless is going to be a lot more niche than Genshin is, in terms of combat, in terms of story, in terms of setting, visuals, everything. Not too niche to where no one will play it and they're not going to make any money, but niche enough to where some people definitely won't like it. But I will say this, the art style is another thing I have to absolutely double hand grab and jerk up and down. Like, oh my god. The art is amazing for this game. Now, granted, it's a Hoyo game. The art is going to be good. There's always going to be a certain bar of quality for nearly everything in Hoyo games, and I'm very glad that was true with Zenless, but some of the art in this game, and I wish I cared about editing to really show you guys, but I guess I'll kind of try and look it up here. ZZZ character box art. Let's see if I could find it in images here. It's basically this. There's these things in the game right here where the whole game is very, very themed, extremely themed, where you basically run a video store with your sibling, and in the video store, everything is kind of either TV based or movie based or video based, and the character stories, the main story, all the way you interact with these things, they have different art styles. And this is one of them. This is for, I believe, the first mission. And just look at the art style. It looks so weird, so different, but so good. It's not lazy. It's very, very stylized. It has its own personality. It's amazing. It's not like this art. And it's not like this art here, although this art is amazing and good too. Like the box art in the game and just some of the art in general in the game is extremely, extremely good. Holy fucking moly. Like, it's so unique. We have Kalita doing a fucking squat at some point. Let me show you guys that. Let me show you Kalita's one. That's one of the characters in the game. Let's see if I can find it. ZZZ Kalita. Fuck. Video. God damn it, I can't spell. Video box art. Hopefully it comes up. Oh my god, it's not coming up. Kalita squat. Oh my god, it's not showing up. God damn it. Character story video. Let me see. Oh my god, I can't find it because I don't know what the fuck it's called. Either way, it doesn't matter. If I cared to edit, I would show it, but it doesn't matter because I'm not editing. Either way, though, the art is just fucking amazing. Like, it's so stylized. You could tell it's done by mostly the same artist, but it is really detailed. It's really fucking good. The art is amazing, and even for the events, right? Let me see if I could find at least that to save myself some embarrassment. ZZZ events. If you look at the events, get the fuck out of here, Google. If you look at the events, right? Even the event art. Obviously, we have the little chibis here too, but this art right here, it almost looks like panty and stocking art. Now, a little bit different, sure, but a lot of this art, like, it's very much a lot of the same art, at least for the events. And there's a lot of different art styles too. Like, look at this. This is one of the events in the game now. It's very much, again, panty and stocking with garter belt style. It's so good. They combine a lot of different art styles, and obviously Hoyo is not one to shy away from the references, but it's really, really fucking good. It's really cute. It's really, like, different from the other art in the game. There's a lot of variety, and I just love the art. Like, I'm stroking it. There's a thing called the internet that you use in the game. It's basically the internet, but the dark web. And you see a lot of posts on there. And these posts, and this is something that's also apparent in Star Rail, they put so much effort into this, where, similar to the Ho-Ho event in Star Rail, if you guys played that, very similar to that, you're basically on the internet, you see posts, you see blog posts from people, and there's a poster, there's commenters, there's a picture on it. The picture art is amazing, but also you see all the comments, and these are long comments. Sometimes they're long threads. The post is sometimes 2-3 paragraphs long. Sometimes it's a sentence, sometimes it's two, but it varies from a little detail to a lot. But these are things most people are not going to fully read. I fully read all of them because it adds to the lore of the world, and it's really good writing, and they make it seem real. I don't know if they had AI help with this. I wouldn't be fucking surprised, if I'm being really honest. But it's just like, they put so much effort into something most people are probably not going to fully read because they just want to skip the text and go to the combat. Because at the end of the day, the internet stuff is extra. It doesn't matter. It's literally just internet blog posts. Sometimes they're talking about the story. Most times they're just talking about something random, right? Like, oh, I stubbed my toe today and I saw, police running from here to there chasing a criminal. And then I thought, why can't they help me with my toe? And then people in the comments would be like, yeah, F the police. They're trying to take down our internet dark web. Fuck them. And then the poster names are funny as shit too. Like, they're somewhat realistic. This is where I thought it would be cringe, but it's really not cringe. It's actually pretty fucking crazy. Like, how, I don't want to say how accurate it is, but how decently accurate it is. I think I will use that. But the art is amazing. The animation is amazing. The art is varied, but it's very good. Character designs out the fucking park. Even the NPC designs in the world where you go on 6th Street, mostly for the beginning of the game. The game is an open world. It's very confined. It's like Star Rail, but less. And Star Rail is not really an open world per se. It is open. You can kind of go where you want, at least where they let you. That's not blocked off, but you can't really go much else. Like, it's very set and determined. You have this little sandbox, you play in it. Genshin's is way, way bigger. You could explore the whole fucking world almost, barring some areas. But Star Rail is less. Zenless is probably the least one. I don't know about Impact Third because, again, I don't play it. But, the area in Zenless is pretty short, but it doesn't matter. Now, this is another thing I kind of have to say, kind of relating to the art. We're pretty much done with the art now, but the level of detail in the game is amazing. Like I said, you have the internet, which every so often has blog posts that just get posted out. A lot of times have nothing to do with anything serious. It's just extra details. And again, they're done extremely well. There's a newspaper stand in the game where every day if you go to it, and not in real day time, not in like our time, in the game time, excuse me, because there's a day night cycle just like Persona. And I never played Persona, but I heard it was similar. But there's a day night cycle kind of like Persona, where you have to go throughout the day and do your scheduled stuff, and then maybe choose to not do it that day or do it the next day, stuff like that, right? You need to pass some days to get some new stuff unlocked. But every in-game day, you get to go to the newsstand and actually scratch off the little like voucher, or not voucher, little like lotto they give you, and you get different things. And then even in the newspaper there, oh well, that's not every in-game day, that's every like actual game day outside, but that's a different thing. The lotto's a different thing. But the newspaper there actually has stuff. The main page is always story related. It kind of shows you what's happening in the story right now. And again, the level of detail is amazing. They have nice art. It's basically like a real newspaper. They have a headline, they have art. And then on the second page, you see all the other stuff which changes. You see, like, oh, I heard this stock's falling. Oh, watch out for your bang boo. And speaking of the bang boos are the little helpers in the game. They're basically like the mascot. Every Hoyo game kind of has to have its mascot. I don't know about Impact Thirds, but Genshin is Paimon, Star Rail, Pom Pom. This game, they don't have one specific one. It's just this army of little bang boo. They're basically little mechanized AI. And obviously, the game is urban, like I said, but it's also urban. It's probably not set on Earth. I don't even know, but it's definitely futuristic esque because they basically have achieved AI sentience. AI is good. Like ChatGPT went on roids, and there's stuff that is actually considered its own living person, or I guess entity, because they have sentience. Like the Bangbu are sentient. Some people abuse them. Some people like treat them well. They have jobs in the world. They just help with people, and they're not like full on people. Like obviously they could be reprogrammed. People use them for work and stuff. They work for people. Sometimes I guess maybe there's like a homeless Bangbu, but the Bangbu are really cute. They're really funny. I love them. The only thing I think that's kind of stupid is they're kind of more like kids than anything, and they call their owners parents, and they're very attached to them. At least with the event we just had, maybe some are different. But the Bangbu just looks so cute. They're so silly. They're so funny. But it's really cool to see them in there. But I forgot where I was going with the Bangbu. But essentially, there's a lot of fucking detail in the world. Oh, I remember the newspaper. So in the newspaper, it'll say something like, "Oh yeah, my Bangbu is malfunctioning," or "I love my Bangbu." Like it's very realistic stuff you'd actually find again. The level of detail is amazing. But either way, aside from the art, aside from the details, which are all they're hitting it out of the park. The setting I've grown to like, not love, but like I'm more accepting of it. The colors don't really matter anymore to me, although they're not great. They're not Star Rail level, but it's kind of whatever. It's kind of whatever. But let's actually talk about the game, right? So the UI is one of the things that I think could use improvement. It's not terrible, but just with the way things are, sometimes when you're in game, when you're in combat, when you're even in like story missions, the UI for when the characters are talking, it's a little speech bubble in the top right, and it's somewhere where I've never seen a speech bubble really be. It's usually in the middle. It being in the top right, they kind of want to make it like I guess clean because they don't want it like interrupting stuff, I guess. But having it in the top right is so weird sometimes. Sometimes I miss it. I'm like, what the fuck? Why is it there? But that's a little nitpick. But either way, how is the game? I told you guys there's not much of a free roam area. There's not. It's very small. It's fine, but it's small. But there's a lot to do in it. You could talk to a lot of people. And obviously there's world quests to do, but how is the actual gameplay? Well, there's kind of two parts to it, at least two parts that Hoyo's pushing. So, number one is obviously the in-game combat when you're in different stages. Now, there's not many stages now. There's a couple, but the stages don't necessarily matter. It's nice to have visual eye candy there. Sometimes you're in a train yard, sometimes you're in a construction site. That's pretty much all I've gotten to, but it's like different variations of that. Sometimes there's verticality. It's cool. But a lot of the time, the stage doesn't necessarily matter because the combat's the main focus. However, appended with this combat is something different. It's basically the HDD system, the Hollow Deep Dive system. It's basically where in the story, and obviously I'm not saying too many spoilers here, just to, make sure people know they're safe here. In the story, you basically go through and you deep dive into the hollows. The hollows are these big black holes that stuff goes into. They just appear randomly. They're a big story point, and stuff gets corrupted in them, but they also produce these crystals that get energy, and we want them. So you go in there, but you as the proxy, you're a person who basically does illegal stuff. You're not supposed to be doing these things. That's why you're on the dark web, the internet. You're not like an actual official person who's supposed to be doing this. You're basically a I don't want to say a vigilante, but you're an off the grid person who's kind of a bounty hunter in a way. Now, you are the proxy. Your character themselves never goes into the hollow if they can help it. They're not going to. They're not the combat people. You take control of the Bangbu, and you're technically seeing it through the Bangbu's eyes, even though you're playing the characters you're with. But all of the quote unquote agents, the actual characters in the game, are people who help you do what you need to do in the hollows. As the main character, either Bell or Wise, both of which I love, they're really cool dynamic. Bell or Wise, they kind of just help the agents get through the hollow. They're like basically guides. They guide you through it because they can get through it better than the agents can. The Bangbu have like information and they get carrots, which I'm not going to go into it too much, but essentially they help them through the hollow. You see that from the deep dive system, and obviously if you've seen Zenless, you've seen the TV screens before. And this is where the major point of contention is. I don't think anyone's really saying too much about the gameplay in terms of negativity. They are saying some stuff, and we'll get to that soon. But in terms of the gameplay for the HDD system, the TV system, it's basically almost like, I don't want to say a Monopoly board, but you go through different TVs, you go left, right, up, down, you kind of traverse. Sometimes they put puzzles in there, sometimes the enemies follow you, you have to avoid them. It's very rudimentary right now, and obviously they mainly had it kind of for the simulated, and yes, there's a simulated in this game, it's called Hollow Zero. A little different than actual simulated, a little bit worse in many ways, but way better than what Genshin has, which is the Imaginarium Theater, because that shit sucks ass. But either way, the HDD system is a point of contention. At first, it's pretty novel, it's pretty cool, but I feel like they're not doing enough with it. There's not enough in the game that really utilizes it, or maybe they just don't have enough creativity. I don't know. Or maybe they're trying to be tame early on. That could be the case. Maybe it gets better way later. I haven't been in the game yet, but it has potential. It's decent. I don't mind it. Eventually, it does kind of get old, but it's kind of whatever. It's easy. It's not necessarily a hard thing, but it's like it's a little repetitive. The combat itself is also pretty repetitive at first, and when I first played the actual in-game fighting combat, I was like, okay, how is this, right? The characters' animations are pretty good. The one little pet peeve I have is the ults aren't that crazy. I think the ults are cool. Obviously, there's a lot of impact frames in the game. I don't know what it is, but modern era, like, people just love impact frames. They love doing that shit. I think, like, it gets them hard or something. I don't really know. But regardless, this is where for the game, aside from the ults, which are a little lackluster to me, some of them are good, but some of them are whatever. The combat at first I thought was ass. I thought it was like whatever, it's just spam left click, and a lot of people have said that too. That's one of the complaints people have about the combat. I think over time though, once you get past the stupid easy content, or if you just don't level properly, then the combat gets pretty fucking good. I think the combat is nice. It is somewhat repetitive, but what game isn't, right? There's very few games that aren't really repetitive. You either like the repetitiveness it is, or you don't. And for Zenless, I do. There's a decent amount of combo. Now, obviously, being a gacha kind of hurts it here. If you could just use all the characters, it would be way better. But it's a gacha. You can't do that. But I've gotten to the point where I like my team. The team is nice. But after a while, I want to use new characters. And they do give you a decent amount. Especially if you did the pre-release stuff. You get a free 4-star Corrin. And as the game goes on, they give you 2 free characters. They basically give you, they give you a couple. They give you Ben for sure. And bigger, giant fucking bear. And the character variety is amazing too. There's animal people in this shit, there's furries, but they're pretty cool. But there's Ben bigger, giant bear. There's Nicole, I believe they give you for free. Billy they give you for free, and Anby they give you for free. And just to kind of quickly say the story, because I don't want to be here forever. At this point, I'm probably just gonna make this into its own fucking video, if I'm being honest. I'm not gonna do the special program preview at the same time. It's not worth it. But in terms of like the characters in the story, I really like them, but we'll get to that in a second. But basically, the combat, right? The combat, the characters have certain combos. Now, some characters are more complicated than others, and that's a good thing. I think some characters being simple is nice. It's fine. It's good. There's some characters who are extremely simple. Billy, one of the main characters, really love him. Great character, great visuals, not so good gameplay wise. But he's very simple, and he'll get the job done. You know, this is a Hoyo game. You could probably do most things if you gear your characters correctly. Some will make it easier than others, but I don't think any character is just straight up garbage where you just can't use them, at least yet. And the game is on the easier side too. The game is kind of not too hard, at least from what I've seen and from what I've heard. But in terms of the gameplay, some characters are very simple. They all have a little gimmick. Sometimes that gimmick is decently complicated. For some of them, more so than not. I had to reread their kits, and I was like, oh, how does this work? There's a lot to the base game where every character has certain things. They have a dash attack, they have a regular attack, they have a special, an EX special when you get enough energy, an ultimate, which functions very differently from every other Hoyo game I've seen, and then a assist, which leads to a defensive assist after you parry, because there's parrying in the game. There's like a parry point system where how many times can you parry and then counter attack. There's dodge attacks. There's perfect dodges, which can lead to an attack. There's a lot of different things in the comic that, or in the game, I said comic, in the game that every character has. However, this is where they get pretty creative with it. And again, I always say this, we're in the infancy of Zenless right now. If you look at Star Rail, and sadly, if you look at Genshin, and you see them in their infancy, and then you go to now, you see a very big different game. Now, granted, Genshin's been out for a while, and it doesn't have that many changes, but Star Rail really does. Star Rail really, like, improved like crazy. Zenless is probably going to do the same thing, because Hoyo at least listens. How much they listen, we'll see. I'm hoping to see with the special program here, but essentially, Hoyo does listen somewhat, and I hope the Zenless team isn't like the Genshin team at all. But this is where we're seeing the game in its infancy, but the characters aren't too complicated yet. Some of them are a little bit, but as the game goes on, I'm sure we'll get some crazy, wacky, power creeping characters as always. But so far, the combat is actually pretty good. Eventually, characters have some secrets. Nicole, like I mentioned before, one of the cunning hairs, one of the people you meet in the very beginning. If you've seen Nicole in the trailers and all the promotional material, she's the big boobied lady who kind of wears like a lot of BDSM gear a little bit. She has a briefcase. She's very fucking cheap too, which is hilarious. But she has like secret combos you could do where if you do certain inputs similar to fighting games, you get a different styled attack that's most of the time better. Now, the combat's cool again. It does get a little repetitive in the beginning. After you figure out, hey, if I do certain things that I actually need to do, combat's going to get better. It's going to be more fun. It's still repetitive, but it's still good. I think it's still good. Using new characters feels great. All the characters feel pretty good, pretty decent. They all have their niches. Again, some of them are simple, but as the game goes on, they're definitely going to get hopefully wild with it. I can't wait to see the future of this game. That's the main thing I'm excited for. But excuse me, so far the characters are good, and there's a wide variety too. One of the characters gimmicks, Soldier 11, is pressing the input at the right interval to actually like get more damage out. Another character's thing is if you dodge while in combat, you get more damage. A lot of them have their own little gimmicks, and they're all good. And these are all standard banner. Like, you'll always have these. I can't wait to see the future ones. The future gimmicks so far, the two characters that have been in the game, or for the limited gimmicks so far, have been decent. Ellen Jo's been alright. Zhu Yuan is pretty cool. The animations, again, they're blowing it out of the fucking park. But in terms of limited, I actually think sometimes the standard is as cool as the limited thus far. Now, theme-wise, we have a shark girl and a policewoman on the limited banner. I think those are kind of blowing every theme out the water in the standard, which they're supposed to. But gameplay-wise, I think they, at least for now, hold up. We haven't seen, like, a stupid OP character that puts these standards to shame yet. We probably will in the future, but not yet. The gacha system is pretty much the same as everything else in all the other Hoyo games. It's pretty good. Compared to other gachas out there, it's not bad at all. Obviously, we have the same pity system for the limited banner as Genshin and Star Rail. 90 is pity, 180 is guaranteed pity if you miss 50-50. Yes, there's 50-50. You get a guaranteed every 10 shots for a 4-star, or in this game it's S rank and A rank. S is 5, A is 4. And it's pretty good. I think, again, just to attest to the detail, even the weapons in the game, they're called W drives. Again, it's all like music video themed, you know, urban themed. The weapons themselves have to do with like kind of like music stuff. And every single weapon has like an animation. In Genshin, some of the weapons are kind of animated. Some of them have moving parts naturally, not many of them. In this game, almost every W engine, they circle around it when you're viewing it, and then they have it to where it's like doing some sort of like idle animation. It's very themed where even if you don't know like who it's for, you could kind of guess based on like what it looks like, what it does. If you read what it does, you can kind of guess like, oh, this is for this character. But even look wise, like Nekomata is a cat person in the game, and there's one of the W engines that looks like it's for a cat. It looks like it's for her. These things are so good. Like, the detail is so amazing. They 3D modeled it. They made it great. They made it animated. It has its own little personality. It's amazing. Now, speaking more on the wishing system, right? The wishing system, there's a weapon, there's a character, and there's a Bang Boo banner. So Bang Boo is a little bit extra. This is where I think the game was almost really, really greedy, right? Obviously, at the end of the day, Hoyo wants to make money, and boy, do they. But this is where there was a separate banner, a third banner, not the weapon, not the character, the Bang Boo banner, that would have been paid for, but they changed it. They said, you know what, this is going to be a free banner. As far as we know, at least right now, you cannot do anything with this banner with money. You cannot buy into it with money. You have to play the game. You have to get the wishes for this specific banner, which are separate, thank God, called Boopons. And they're pretty good. And you can select which S rank you want, which 5-star you want, and you're guaranteed to get that one. And the Boopon, or sorry, not the Boopons, the Bang Boo, they're not that good, I'll be honest. They help, but they're like extra help. If you didn't have them, you wouldn't be up the river without a paddle. They're nice little helpers, but they're nothing crazy. Sometimes if you get the really good one for your team, if they increase ice damage or if they increase ice buildup, because there is elements in this game. Not as crazy as Genshin, but there is. And, you know, if you increase that, it definitely does help sometimes when you have the really good one for your right team. But most of the time, you could pretty much ignore them. And if you didn't have them, you could still probably get through all the content in the game. Not too difficultly. Aside from the Abyss in here, the MOC in here, which they call Shiyu Defense. But either way, again, they have their standard stuff. They have Shiyu Defense, which is Memory of Chaos, which is, you know, Spiral Abyss, the 12 floors. I forgot what it is in this one. I think it's 10. It resets every, what is it, half a month, every month, something like that. Then you have Simulated, again, slightly different in their own way, but pretty similar. But back to the wishes, the Boopons. They're a pretty good system. They're free, and they're not that important, but they're there as a little extra boost, and you get whichever one you want, and you could switch it. You could switch which your destined Bang Boo is, and you don't lose any progress, which is great. Now, one thing I do have to say, most of the wishing is pretty much the same. However, I will give them props for this. The standard weapon banner, or sorry, not the standard weapon banner, the limited weapon banner is not shared with any other weapon. So it's better than Genshin. Genshin is the worst one by far. And there is guaranteed pity every single time. Every time, from what I've read, that you get an S rank weapon on the limited, it will be the limited weapon. You cannot get anything else but the limited weapon. That is a really, really good thing. I was surprised they did that, and that's really, really good. Now, getting to what the final thing I want to talk about is before I kind of wrap it up, because this is going for a little bit wild, or a little bit long, which is wild. But this is where the resin system is one of the things I want to talk about. Is it better than Genshin? Yes, and I know I'm always comparing, but that's, you know, you have to compare these things. They're all competing with each other, and I play both. Genshin's resin system is still the worst. I was hoping to dear God, when Zenless came out, it would have a resin system like Star Rail. Now, Star Rail didn't start with that. And I don't know about Impact Third, but I'm pretty sure Impact Third didn't start with it either. I'm not sure. But Impact Third has a reserve system. Star Rail has a reserve system. Zenless does not. Yet. I hope one day they do, because things in this game are intensive. Like, the game is nice, the game is good, but holy moly, after like a little bit, and obviously they give you refreshes. It's called, I forgot what it's called. I think it's called Ether something. But it's basically fragile resin. They give it to you, and you could use it to refill your energy, which in this game is battery charge. And there's one system in the game that kind of helps them, and that's coffee. Every single day in real lifetime, you can go get coffee from the coffee shop, and this coffee not only gives you 60 extra energy, which can overcap you, thank God, but it also can give you a certain buff for certain materials. If you want to get more things for a fire character, you could get that. If you want to get more materials to level up your agents, you could get that. There's different coffees that you could get that could kind of help you. But the biggest thing is, every day you get 60 free energy that can overcap you. And it stacks too. It's not like there's a limit. If, let's just say you get on, you only drink the coffee, you get off, the next day you get on, it'll go 60 more. There's no like hard limit. It'll go as high as it needs to, as far as I've seen. There probably is a soft limit, but I don't think we'll ever hit it. Unless you just get on to drink the coffee and that's literally it. You don't play the game. But the coffee system is kind of helping, but aside from that, it does have a really high energy cap too. Genshin, after all the years, after increasing it multiple times, is only at 200. Zenless is at 240 base, and you can get the coffee for an extra 60, which brings up to 300 or more if you keep stacking it. But the base is high, and then the coffee helps, but you need so much resin in this game. It's actually insane. You need so much energy. It's like, holy fucking shit. It gets like tough sometimes where in other games, and I guess in this game, if you don't play it too much, if you're taking your time with it like me, you could wait, but later on in the game, things are expensive to where you need a lot of materials where you're going to use your resin. It's a lot. It is a lot. But aside from that, I really just hope they change the resin system to a reserve. If they do that, I'm fine with it. It could be as costly as it needs to be. These things take time and they want to obviously push you to spend money, but it's decently fair. But either way, aside from that, I really like the game. Again, the whole personality of the game, the way the internet works, the story too. I forgot to go over that. The story is also pretty good. I don't want to go too much into it because of spoilers, but not everyone's gonna like this story for sure. The story is not I would say groundbreaking, amazing. It's nice though. It's a nice, calm little story. It has little action moments. It's comedic. It's decently well written, but it's nothing over the top, at least yet. Some people are gonna like it. Some people are gonna hate it. I love the character interactions. I think all the characters so far are amazing. Some of them are a little not amazing. I would say they're great. They're not amazing. Like the Bellabog story, which I've gone through, it's pretty okay. It's funny at times. There's a lot of funny moments in it, especially in the first group. You basically go through groups, right? Every character in this game has groups. And also, that matters in combat. If you pair characters by element or by their actual lore group in the story, you get special bonuses, which sometimes suck, sometimes matter. It really depends on the character, but that's to be expected. But in the story, the Cunning Hares, I absolutely love them. The Bellbog group, I grew to like them. I'm really looking forward to playing Chapter 3 of the story where I get to the maid people, Victoria Housekeeping. I can't wait for them. But there's a wide variety of characters, and obviously they're only going to add more. There's other characters that they show you that you're going to see in the future too. There's the Special Forces, the Police Squad, the Special Investigations Unit. There's all these different squads that you're going to see that you know they're going to come in the future. They kind of tease you a little bit with them. And especially for my wife, Miyabi, the Special Investigation Unit, like captain, I'm waiting for her ass. She's really cool. And obviously, if you've been around the block, you've seen these characters kind of before. You see them, they're a little tropey. But overall, the story's really good. The characters are really good. The Cunning Hares are hilarious. There's times where I thought it was so funny because the characters are so stupid sometimes. Ooh, excuse me, there's a lot of yelling in my house. But either way, the characters are amazing. The story, the lore is amazing. The interactions are great. Anby is one of my favorite characters. Anby is a ditz who doesn't know what the hell's going on. She only knows how to fight and how to kill. And she's very like cold and efficient, not without emotion, but just very hard to show it. Billy, who's like one of the robots who people have seen in the, you know, in a lot of the promotional stuff, similar to Nicole, because they're part of the same faction. Billy is hilarious. This guy is an AI robot that achieves sentience, right? He's considered his own person. He thinks he's a Starlight Knight. He thinks, and there's different things in the universe, right? The Starlight Knights, that's one of the shows in the universe that's very popular. It's basically Power Rangers, kind of mixed in with other stuff. But he thinks he's one of those. He wants to be one of those. He sees his guns as like people who he wants like to help him be a Starlight Knight, and he basically lives in the persona. And I honestly can't tell if he's like actually in it or not, because at a certain point he could be serious, but most of the time he really does, I think, believe he's a Starlight Knight. He's kind of like crazy. And Anby's hilarious. Nicole is hilarious. She's cheap as shit. The Bellabog people are funny as hell. They all have their little quirks. Ben Bigger, right? The big bear I mentioned. He's just a giant fucking bear. And when you go and meet them, right? You're like, oh, I'm gonna beat the boss of Bellabog Industries. I'm so scared. You meet Ben, you think he's the boss, and you're kind of scared of him because he has like one eye missing, he has a giant scar, he's, you know, big, he has a giant chain. And then you talk to him, and he's the biggest softy ever. Like, he's a super nice guy, and he's an accountant. And it's like, what the hell? The story is so good. The characters are so good. A little tropey sometimes, especially with Miyabi, sadly, my wife. She's basically Eula from Genshin. She's like, oh, she talks very weird, and she says all these things that a lot of people misinterpret, but she means well. She's very cool. She's an anime swordswoman, which is amazing. But there's a lot of characters that are great. Really like the story. And again, just to kind of highlight the art here, there's so many different art styles. So I already showed you guys the event art. I showed you guys this other art here too. This is where there's certain parts in the story where, because they don't have big environments, because they don't have big sandbox, they kind of tell the story through like comic panels almost, literally and figuratively. Sometimes when the characters talk, they're just in front of you in like a little panel. They are animated, they do little animations, which are all unique to them, by the way. They're not shared, thank God. Genshin's sucking ass now, because Genshin does that. Genshin shares animations between all characters. But in Zenless, they have different animations for each character, thank God, and they kind of do it in like strips. So you won't see them in the overworld. You won't see them in the combat zone. They'll talk to you like just like in a panel sometimes, and they will move around. It's kind of like you're in like a video call with them. The biggest thing I could relate it to is almost Metal Gear Solid, kind of, kind of. But aside from that, in the actual like cutscenes, sometimes they use it in like comic form, and I really like that they do this because the comic form versions of them are very, very expressive to where you can't do that with the actual model rigging. And I actually really like it. Some people don't like it, and again, this isn't going to be a game for everyone, but it's actually really, really good. Like the comic things are so funny because they have cute little faces sometimes that they can't make with the models. It's just, it's very wide encompassing, and I really, really like it. But aside from that, I think we pretty much got to everything. Again, I can't glaze enough how much detail and how much the art is good. The gameplay is good after a while. I could see some people not liking it because again, it does get repetitive. And if you don't have new characters to use, if you get unlucky with your rolls, then it definitely feels more repetitive than not. But so far, it's pretty good. Now, the biggest thing is to kind of really wrap it all together. What do I feel overall about the game? I think it's decent. I actually like just getting on the game and chilling. I think it's really cool. The theme is just relaxing. Like it's a very relaxed theme. The way the story is, the way the world is, it's funny. The characters are really funny. There's a certain character I can't talk about for spoiler reasons, but there's basically a mainstay character that you get in the story that is with Wise and Bell, the brother and sister, of which their interaction is amazing. But there's another character you get, which is so funny. And another thing I want to say that I really like about this game is not fully for kids. Like Genshin is basically the kiddie game. They're very like PG, I would say. This game literally starts out showing you like it's not, obviously kids could play it, but it's not solely directed at kids because in the beginning of the game you get like a news report. You see it from a news report. You see a reporter reporting on like an activity, and the guy is just cursing, saying we should fuck him, we should hang him. Now obviously they bleep it out, but it's like the fact that they even have that and it's front and center in the game, it's amazing. And Hoyo, for some reason, I don't know if Zenless activated this for them, like they turned on a switch in their brains, but Zenless made them more horny. Zenless legitimately made them focus more on sexuality, and sex sells. Sadly, sex sells. But they know that, like, focusing on all these fetishes and all these different things, that's what's going to make the money. And ever since Zenless came out, it's even bled into their other games where they're really focusing on feet now. But Zenless is pretty overt with the sexuality stuff. Not like flashing, bare tits in your face. They're not going to do that. But they really just like the jiggle physics. And I don't think I've seen a game where more people have thirsted over the characters this fast because Hoyo does things like the poses they put them in, the things they put them in. There's a point where if you beat combat, it kind of like freeze frames what you're doing at that moment and it kind of shows you different angles. And one of the characters, Nekomata, that you use, a lot of the times when you finish combat with her, the way her animations end, or the way you're done with your animations when combat finishes, it's literally showing her fucking ass in your face. Like it's zooming on her ass and she's bending over. Like Hoyo knows what they're doing. They really know what they're doing. But overall, there's some rough spots with the game. I really hope the game gets better. I hope they redo the resin system. The HDD system, the little navigation system that you do, is a little repetitive, but I think hopefully it's in its infancy. The combat, it's not great. Like again, there's combos, they're simple, they're cool if you like it. It gets pretty repetitive, but if you like it, it's not bad. But in the future, I think things are gonna go a lot better, hopefully. But it's basically just things are okay now, okay leaning to good. Everything not combat wise, I think is pretty amazing. It's just we really got to see where the game is going to go. But so far, I really, really like it. I just hope it gets better. If it doesn't get better, if it stagnates like Genshin, I don't think it's going to be that good. But only the future will tell. But Hoyo, they're on their shit. Even with Genshin, not so much, but even with Genshin, they're usually on their shit. With Star Rail, they're like blowing it out of the water. I don't think this game is going to beat Star Rail. I'd be surprised if it does, but I could see this game at least being my number two. And for now, it definitely is. But I really like the game so far, can't wait to see more in the future, and I'll react to the special program in a later video. Either way, I hope everyone enjoyed, and that's about it.